Well, hello there. This is Shane from Shane's Reviews, and I hope you are having a great day today. Today we're going to be talking about my nemesis, my hero, Stephen King. He's not really my nemesis, but some of the books before he got back into his groove. Yeah, anyway, that's a whole different video. But we're going to be talking about the Tommyknockers, and this was narrated by Edward Herman. Quick note about the production was on par, on top. There wasn't really anything in there that was bad. It was actually fairly well done. It was a very enjoyable read, even if it is almost 30 hours long. So the whole reason why I decided to get back to this is I didn't ever read it. I know there's crying babies all because I didn't ever read this book. But no, what it is I had watched this whenever it came out in America, but it was like a mini series, and there was a time period where a lot of Stephen King books were being converted to television movies, and so I thought I had a pretty fair grasp on the story. And I don't want to feed into that trope of the book is better than the movie, or the movie is this and the book is that. Well, in this case, they're two different products, kind of. And there's a reason why I say that. My memories of what I saw versus what's in this book are two completely different things. And at the time period, I imagine it would have been really hard for a company, even LucasArts, to really go into what was in this book from a description status. Now, these days, with the tools that are available, some of the things that were created by the people that were in the book could be done. Some of the visual effects certainly could be done in a much better, more true way to the book. But the main issue, and it's not even a length issue, because whenever they were doing those Stephen King books back then on television, it wasn't just a 1 hour to 2 hour thing. Usually it would be split up into 3 or 4, sometimes larger, on the amount of times that each segment of the quote movie would be, or the series would be. And I think they had to make some stylistic choices. And I think that's the reason why there's such a big divide there. Now, as a fun aside, question of the week is, do you want me to go back and see if I can find Tommyknockers and watch it and then give a fair comparison between the two? Because let's face it, I'm thinking that was 25, 30 years ago. I don't really have a good timestamp for that, really. But it's one of those things of, I would be curious to see, and if you wonderful people would like to have me do that, I would be happy to do that, and then we'll compare the two. Now, the story that is presented in the audiobook from Stephen King, it's got, of course, a lot of characters, which is kind of a trademark of Stephen King. And in that time period, he kind of had like this whole trope of building an entire area and focusing on just a couple people that are in that area, and then having it where it's like something completely isolated. I mean, we've seen this in The Dome, we've seen this in this, we've seen this in like even It to a degree, where that entire town is kind of segmented away. People come, but they don't really stay. And it's the same thing with this town that we're going into. Our main characters really are Bobby, the town, and Guard. Guard is a functioning alcoholic / recovering alcoholic / I know I'm an alcoholic, but I keep falling on my face. And he knows that he shouldn't do these things, but with any sickness, and this is something I applaud, the way that he kept this in and hasn't really changed this part of it. With any sickness, it's a sickness. It's not something you control. I hate to equate it to a phobia, but phobias are not rational for the most part. It's one of those things where you don't have any control over what you are afraid of. Sometimes it is something like a hole, or sometimes it could be something like, I am afraid of the handle of a shovel. You know, it's not something that's rational. And it's the same thing with being an alcoholic, I would imagine, mainly because of some of the people that I know in my own life, the way that I've seen them behave. It's something that they really don't have much control over, especially once they get into a routine. Getting outside of that is so hard to break that cycle. And I do hate it for them, and I hate having to see them go through this. But on the same token, I've got hope that one day they'll decide that they need help and want help, and will actively pursue help and realize it's not a weakness to ask for that. But anyway, back to Guard. So Guard is one of those types. He has a temper. Whenever he drinks, his temper comes out in a big way. Bobby's kind of like a chill author, and this is what I was saying in his callback. was there was a description he was given of Bobby and comparing some of the works that she's done to Zane Grey, etc. And not like that loudmouth author up in, you guessed it, his hometown. So I mean, it was kind of funny to see the way that he did that. You know, it was kind of cool. But these two people are really intricate to the story, because Bobby is actually the one that finds this vessel, this ship, and starts this whole thing because she trips over it and then blacks out for a while. And then there's all these things that start happening. Like at first, it's really weird because the dog that was around, it had a cataract. The dog had a cataract, and the cataract actually kind of remissed and then went and disappeared. So at first it was like, oh wow, whatever she has discovered is going to be really cool. It's going to be helpful. It's going to improve things. Boy, could I have not been more wrong. So she finds this thing, and her story, she starts to go into this whole thing of inventing stuff for herself, like a typewriter, because, you know, that would be interesting to her. And this typewriter is hooked up to her psychically, so all she has to do is think, and then it spits things out. There's also this thing about batteries and power that seems to be a ongoing thing throughout the book. So in our first scenes with Guard, he's confronted with somebody that everybody in the world has met, that one person that is somewhat of a politician that really only cares about their agenda and what they're trying to accomplish, and will tell half-truths to everybody and expect everybody to buy it. Well, Guard got drunk, he was at an event, this guy was running his mouth, and then it happens, right? So anyway, the long of it all is, this guy was a nuclear proponent. He wanted to have nuclear power, and in this situation, this was during a time period long ago whenever nuclear wasn't known to be as safe as it is. It wasn't known to be so much better for the environment. He wasn't the type that was going on about nuclear because of its possible benefits. Instead, he was using shrouds. So he was he was chalking up things like Chernobyl, like, oh, well, you know, that was the Russians' fault, but, you know, we're good to go here. And that was really rubbing Guard the wrong way, mainly because it was half-truths, hidden behind mirrors, and all that kind of thing, and he wanted to call him out on it. So that's how one of his little episodes starts. Yes. Now, moving on along, the rest of the power stuff that I'm talking about is Bobby comes up, and most of the townspeople come up with ways that they're using like D batteries to power their entire town because of the direct current. The book really focuses on a lot of those Stephen King-esque details. This time I felt like there was a little bit of showing more so than telling. Or sorry, I said it backwards. A little bit of telling versus showing, which is kind of uncharacteristic for Stephen King. Usually he will present just a minimalistic idea, like here is a diner, and the diner has gold highlights of some sort, or he'll tell you about a lamp or maybe a table, just enough for you to understand that this is the kind of vibe that these people have just walked into. Is it a diner in the Midwest in the 1920s that's been revamped a couple of times, but it still looks the same? He'll give you those sorts of details for the most part, but he doesn't really get into like the mainline details. He doesn't go on and on about that because he understands that that is distracting to the reader and can actually break that immersion that you get whenever you're reading something that you're really digging. So there's that portion of that in the Tommyknockers where I was like, wow, was that really necessary? And it's kind of funny too. There's a lot of funny stuff about this book. In theory, funny, not haha, but funny like, really? There was I think an afterword from Stephen King, or it was a forward from Stephen King. I can't remember which one. But he described the book as not so much as being wrote as being gutted, meaning that there was all kinds of stuff that was pulled out of it. So I'm wondering if all those details that were yanked out is the reason why some of it felt so out of place. So, I mean, it was a cohesive read. It does have a beginning, a middle. It does have, what is this character going up against? It does have rivalries. I can't talk. Rivalries. God bless, I really can't talk. They have rivals. There we go. I got it now. It's rivals. But there's all this rival in between Guard and the rest of the townsfolk, or people that are coming in from outside of town. And there's this side story that I absolutely loved about this poor reporter guy that still lives with his mom, and he's just trying to make it. He's trying to break out. He's trying to get his story. He finally gets his story, but it's the way that he connects all the dots and seeing him put those dots together inside of the book as a third party, a third person perspective, looking at him, what he's going through, and seeing how all these things are lining up and how he's connecting those dots to get down to, oh, we might actually have something really big going on down here that we should address. And so that was pretty neat to see. I really enjoyed that quite a bit. Overall, I love the story. I like to give Stephen King crap on a shingle whenever I can, but this is not one of them. And the reason why is because you actually get into the story. You get so much from the story. You get so much details. You see the becoming. You see how the technological advantages of whatever is in this ship, how it's affecting the people and how they're embracing those different types of technologies to pull particular things off. And so that's pretty cool to see, and it's a pretty cool take on what if this was aliens? What if this was here 50 million years ago and it's just been sitting there waiting for the right person to find it? What if this is actually a really bad thing that should be stopped? And would we have the ability to stop it so it doesn't go somewhere else? Or going through pretty much hell on earth and knowing you're going to die just to bring one boy back that disappeared from a magic trick. I mean, that's pretty neat, right? But anyway, the story itself, if you've never read it and you like that sci-fi, some of it's a bit gory on the description. I think some people might be like blah about that, especially when I was talking about what's happening in their bodies and how some people's skin has turned translucent, but there's not a whole lot of that. If you like horror, you're going to like this. If you haven't read it, you should. And if you like sci-fi and horror, what are you doing? Please pick it up. It is worth your time, efforts, and energies if you enjoy just horror and sci-fi. I mean, it will do it for you. And the thing is this, I believe that this was his old narrator that he used all the time, Edward Herman. He did such a phenomenal job. He didn't really, there was a few times where he used different voices for this, that, and the other, but I mean, the way that he presented it, the way that he read it, he cared about what he was doing. You can tell. It's very, very straightforward. And it shows in the way that the story unfolds as he reads it, as he keeps the tension, as he does this, that, and the other. I quite enjoyed the way that he portrayed it. Also, I'd like to give a special thanks to Stephen King for writing the book. I imagine that kind of an undertaking is not easy, and I know that my favorite experiences from Stephen King have been whenever I first read The Dome, and I'm pretty sure this is right there as well. Now, I'm not sure which one of these videos that's coming in that you would pick, but if you happen to pick that one up there, I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a good week. I love your faces, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.